Hello and welcome to The Edition from The Spectator. I'm Lara Prendergast, The Spectator's executive editor, and the latest issue of the magazine has just gone to press. The headline is The Boring Twenties, and it's written by Gus Carter and Rupert Hawksley. To discuss that piece and some of the other pieces in the issue, I'm joined now by Rupert, our opinion editor, by our economics editor, Michael Simmons, and by the author and academic, Philip Hensher. Rupert, your argument is that essentially we are living through a very boring era, not the roaring 20s, but the boring 20s. And you and Gus have put this cover piece together. Can you start by setting out the argument that you make in it?
Yeah, of course. Happy New Year, everyone. So we wanted to start the new year with a sort of broader look at the decade that we're living through. And depressingly, the phrase that we came up with to sort of define that decade was the boring 20s. Gus and I were discussing it at length in the office, and we just sort of noticed that the price of everything has rocketed. So drinking is more expensive, pub landlords are being hit with increased taxes, buying a packet of fags is now sort of 21, 22 quid. Theatre tickets, I mean, God, where to start with that? Anywhere from sort of £100 upwards. And we just felt that there was a real sort of sadness in society at the moment that we can't do more of the things that we love. I think three things are probably to blame for this. Firstly, the government hiking taxes. I mean, that's obviously going to stymie people being able to go out and do things that they enjoy. And then you've got private equity taking over. Gus has written about this before brilliantly, but there's this sort of homogenization of everything, which means that, you go to any pub and you get the same burger, you get the same, side of chips. Anything eccentric, interesting, different is being stifled by private equity. And then, of course, it's our old friend health and safety. Gus mentions in his brilliant piece the famous cheese rolling sort of exercise, competition, whatever you want to call it, in Gloucestershire every year. That's now under threat because of fears over people's safety. And we just sort of felt that everything that we enjoy, everything that's fun, is being sapped out of life. The second part of the piece is the piece that I wrote, which is specifically about horse racing and the impact that the government's gambling taxes are going to have on horse racing. So that's much more specific. Now, the Labour government will definitely point to the fact that horse racing is actually exempt from the recent tax rises in the budget. But my argument is that, if you raise taxes on bookmakers and gambling more generally, it will inevitably hit horse racing. You can't separate the two. Now, I know it's not always easy to support and love Paddy Power and William Hill, but unfortunately, it's a bit of a Faustian pact. Without them, our much-loved sport of horse racing won't exist. So I'm sorry to bring a bit of a downer to the first issue of 2026, but I'm afraid we are living through a boring time.
Philip, are you feeling quite as pessimistic?
I am a bit. I must say, I agree with all of that. One of the things that I do think has happened in the last few decades is that pleasures and recreation and spending time and wasting time has increasingly been monetised, really. And the sort of fun that people used to have of just going out and mucking about and pushing each other into the pond in the parks, that's been sat on by, as Rupert says, by health and safety concerns. We don't really let kids just go out and muck about anymore. And the end result, I think, is that, when they want to find something to do, they think, well, we can't afford something to do. I think that actually what really needs to happen is just I don't know how this is going to come about, but just an infusion of individual confidence in people, just to say, well, I don't have any money. I'm going to go out and hang out with my mates and, I don't know, push them into ponds.
Yeah.
Fun is there to be had, but fun doesn't come to you. You have to go out and find fun. Mind you, I have to say, if London theatre becomes totally unaffordable and everybody stops going, then all to the good, really.
Yeah, I think we're very risk-free. You look at the Danish parenting style, and it's very much like, go out, get mucky, climb trees. If you happen to sprain an ankle, no problem. But here in the UK, it all feels so tight at the moment.
And the crucial thing is that you can't start learning to climb trees when you're 25. You know, that kind of acceptance of risk is, has got to be there from the start.
I went to a place in the summer where they were actually selling a course in climbing trees. I think that's probably part of the problem. It was £25 to learn how to climb a tree.
Wow. I wonder if anyone's thought of starting up a course in how to play conkers.
And Michael, how much of this is to be blamed on the government, and how much of it is a cultural shift? Rupert and Gus talk about people staying at home, ordering in delivery, watching Netflix.
Yeah.
Is that sort of the flip side of what the government has forced on people?
Well, there's a bit of both, in that the government, whatever it says, does not seem to care about the nighttime economy, which, by the way, it was estimated that this year, just after work socialising alone, brought in £20 billion to the economy. Last year, I should say, £20 billion in 2025. So this is going to the pub after work is an important activity that's become, prohibitively expensive. 2026 could be the year of the £10 pint because of things we've talked about before, like the national insurance increase, how expensive it is to run any business. On the flip side to that, there clearly is a cultural change. In the OBR's report that they publish alongside the budget, they basically said that future governments shouldn't bank on alcohol duties, cigarette duties, because of this trend they say there is of young people abstaining from that. I'm kind of skeptical, though, of that, because a lot of this, we always hear this, that young people don't drink anymore, and it's always based on surveys. It's not my experience. If you go out in London or any major city, there still seems to me to be loads of pissed young people running about, which is a good thing. And I think, as Philip said, we need some scenario that creates fun. And I actually think 2026 summer could be really good for this, because we're going to have the World Cup. Mm-hmm. And importantly for me, it's going to be the first time in my living memory that Scotland are in the World Cup. So I think we're certainly going to have a rowdy, fun year in Scotland, and hopefully that spreads down here as well. And maybe, there's ways, I'm sure we can get into this. Obviously, the economic situation is not great for having fun, but you can have fun for free. And you can have fun for fairly cheap.
I don't want to be pessimistic, Michael, but I think you might have a rowdy, fun week. Yeah. I wonder whether we're in a scenario now where we might start to see the reappearance of speakeasies. I remember in the 90s in Soho, when legislation meant that places had to shut early, if you were still hanging around at 3 o'clock in the morning, someone would say, oh, if you go to number 23 Greek Street or whatever and knock on the door, then there's somebody, and there'd be somebody with planks of wood selling beers in a totally illegal way. It seems to me that we're at an absolutely ideal point where people start selling illegal beers in their sitting
Bring back
room.
the house party as well. I think that's the key thing. Maybe they are going on and not getting invited, but I feel like we need to, if it's too expensive, and you are so right about the £10 pint, that's on the horizon. And if that is the case, then I think, let's pick up a slab of Stellas and have an open door policy at people's houses. Far more fun.
Yeah.
How much, though, Rupert, is this a generational divide? Because obviously, I feel like the theatres, as you say, are packed, but presumably with a kind of slightly older clientele. Is that the issue here, that it's just a classic wealth divide?
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. I went to see a production at the end of last year of The Importance of Being Earnest with Stephen Fry, and to take, I think 4 of us went. It was £400 for the 4 tickets. The entire theatre was the Blue Rinse Brigade, and I don't say that in a pejorative way, but it's just the reality. That young people are completely saddled with student debt that they can't afford to pay off.
Interestingly, I saw that production with the second cast with the beloved Stephen Fry,
yes,
who
exactly.
I think was the only good thing in it, actually. But interestingly, the night that I went, it was entirely the Blue Rinse Brigade, which I include myself in now. But behind us, there were 6 conspicuously young people who were the only people laughing at every single line. Now, I don't say that the management had imported them, but they were having rather a conspicuously good time. I think the truth is that we paid about the same for our tickets, and I came out thinking that bloody critic in The Guardian pretending that this was the best thing ever. Someone should have a word with that woman, really. And I do think that actually the thing that is driving the lack of faith in a lot of these cultural products is that there are so few commentators who are simply doing their job. And I absolutely accept Lloyd in The Spectator from this. Lloyd is, in my experience, one of only 2 or 3 theatre critics who is prepared to say whether something is good or not. But the rest of them, they're terrified of suggesting that something that they feel they ought to approve of should be condemned. And so you pay your 400 quid and you think, what on earth is this? The thing is, the fun arises when people are totally honest about whether they're having fun or not. If we're reduced to people's pretending that they're enjoying stuff, that's not going to lead to anything.
Just going back to the generational divide, I mean, Michael might be more au fait with the figures than me, but let's just say you're on £26,000 in London. You might take home, that's £1,800, £2,000 a month. If 800, 900 of that is going on rent, 150 going on student loan. I mean, there's just so little wiggle room, and so I think it is generational. And my worry is that when the older people die off, like who's going to go to the theatre? Who's going to prop this stuff up?
I think there might be a perverse economic effect, though, where because things have become so expensive, because living standards are not improving, young people might think, my chances of ever owning property are pretty small unless I inherit. So therefore, I am going to spend more on fun, on going to the theatre, on going on holiday. And I think businesses are attuned to this now. And the best example I can think of this is Marks & Spencer's have a cream bun, which they've just changed the recipe for to put more cream into it. And their rationale for this is that people are buying less things because money is tight, but when they are, they're treating themselves.
That's brilliant.
So people want a cream bun full of cream. And I think you might get that same thing with holidays, with going out for meals, that, people are not going to go out maybe as regularly as they could afford to in the last 20 years. But when they go out, they're going to, have a slap-up meal, spend a bit more.
I feel rather optimistic about the cream bun with more cream in it as we go into 2026. I suppose one of the consequences of all of this is younger people not having as many children, and that's a subject that Louise Perry has written about in this issue. She's talking about the kind of apocalyptic visions of population growth, and she says that actually, obviously, what's happened is we've had population degrowth. Michael, is that a big issue now that we need to be concerned about?
Yeah, I mean, this is something I'm very, very pessimistic about. I mean, quite simply, society in the long run cannot survive if it doesn't replace itself. We're going to have this situation where the sort of population pyramid is far too skewed towards older people, and then there is not going to be the workforce to pay for things like the state pension or actually provide, the carers that are going to have to care for people as they live longer lives in poorer health because they're living longer. But where I'm kind of negative about this is I really don't see a solution, because I think Louise would argue that there are things that the government can do and that we can do in society to make it financially easier for people to have kids, and also, just more attractive to have kids. But I've always been kind of skeptical about how much that really is a difference. I think a lot of it is to do with how liberalised we've become as a society. Some people just don't want to have kids. And I don't think economic incentives is going to put that back in the box. So I think this is going to be the problem that defines this century. But I have absolutely no idea what the solution for it is, if there even is one at all.
Does anyone else want a solution?
I've got a solution, but it's not a very nice one. I think I'd be failing my duty to The Spectator if I didn't say that it would be absolutely terrible idea to throw money at people proposing to have children, which is actually what we're doing by removing the 2-child cap. The single solution which would solve it overnight is if property prices collapsed to 20% of their current level. The reason that people aren't having children is that they don't have the space. You know, when I was born, my dad was 29, and he bought a 3-bedroomed house in London.
Yeah.
You know, not on a very flash salary either. The idea that anybody could do that now is just ridiculous. You know, it just cannot happen. That's why people aren't having children. I don't think it's about any kind of great shift in mentality or anything like that. It's just
I think you're totally right that housing is a huge part of it, and people that already have kids would have more if they had more space. And there are some people who are holding off having kids who, if they had property, would have them earlier. But I disagree slightly, because I do think there is a societal trend against wanting kids too, which is not just related to access to housing. And that's the bit of it that maybe if we sort the housing thing up, then, you know, the birth rate will increase enough that it doesn't become a problem. But I still think there's a trend that's...
Is it? And I use the word loosely. I use the word selfish, not in a sort of negative way particularly. But is it? Do you think that increasingly people value their quality of life and their independence, and they want to have the money, whatever they've got left, to go on holiday? They don't want to be getting up early and stuff. Is that the societal shift?
Well, I think it's more careers, right? I think women quite fairly, and you know, it's a good thing for the economy, want to get further along in their careers. So regardless of the housing situation, or maybe putting off having kids. And I think that's a good thing, but it also contributes to this problem. And that's the bit of it that I think is hard to fix, because we're not going to turn around and say, oh, actually, we don't want women in the workplace anymore. That would be, I don't think anyone would argue for that.
A few people in America are arguing that. I think there's a general pessimism, isn't there, about having children, that it's somehow going to, affect your life in a negative way, and I guess that's sort of taken hold.
Yeah.
We also have in this issue, we have Ed West writing about people using children as political shields once they're here, and he bemoans this. He says that it's become this kind of trend where people put forward children to advance their own political ideas. Philip, what do you make of that whenever you see a child spouting some grand political statement?
Well, I'm not really the person to talk to about this, because I don't have children, because the facts of biology were really against me and my husband. Well, all well and good, children spouting their political ideals and everything, just as long as I don't have to listen to them, really. I think that short-term concerns and easy solutions are always the problem of children opining about things, and we should kind of listen to them politely and then take absolutely no solutions from what they're suggesting at all.
Seen but not heard.
Seen but, well, no, they should be heard and then forgotten about.
Forgotten, exactly. There's a fun line in Ed's piece where he says that he'd rather his daughters had OnlyFans accounts than joined the UK Youth Parliament to serve as human shields. Rupert, what did you make of that?
I'm a huge fan of Ed's writing. I have to say, I found this piece extraordinary. I mean, I agree with large parts of it. It is extremely frustrating when politicians wheel out some unsuspecting child with a beautiful, pure mind to say that we must do more to save the environment, and who could possibly argue with little Johnny. I agree with that. That's incredibly frustrating. Where I take issue with Ed's piece is when he talks about the UK Youth Parliament, which I just thought was a brilliant initiative. I think anything that gets young people politically engaged has to be applauded. There was a very sort of conservative response to children being in the chamber and having a sort of mock debate. I thought it was brilliant, and I suspect 10% of them only will go on to have politically engaged careers. But no, I was really supportive of that whole initiative. I take Ed's point completely about the human shield element of wheeling out children. But no, I think it's great, and yeah, more power to the young.
And also, the kids will sort this out themselves, right? Like, this is kind of what bullying is for. Like, there will always be, things like this, schemes for kids, but there'll be a natural cap on it, because when it gets too cringy, the sort of teenage peer pressure stops it going too far. Yeah. So I think leave the kids alone. They'll be all right.
I do think that Ed's quite right to say that lowering the voting age to 16 is a clear political tactic by the Labour Party. Anyone under the age of 20 is more likely to vote left than right, and I have issues
one that
with
might
that.
backfire.
Yeah, because presumably it might backfire if they're all voting reform.
Yeah.
Is that likely, do you think?
I don't think it's likely, but I mean, Reform certainly have the best outreach on things like TikTok, which is obviously where these 16 and 17-year-old voters would be. So they're certainly susceptible for a rightward switch. And actually, it's in younger generations where you see polls where they say they don't believe in things like democracy anymore, which I think is, partly trolling from teenagers, but they're open to more right of centre ideas. So I don't think it's a slam dunk for Labour, this lowering the voting age.
This was always the age at which the kids used to go into quite extreme political positions, wasn't it? And I wonder whether that's kind of on the decline now that they all know that if they have anything online, then people will know forevermore.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in a. No, I'm not going to tell you my. But like, there were people, and when I was at Oxford, there was a guy who was always called the Merton skinhead, who was really, way beyond anything that Nigel Farage is being accused of.
Where's he now, the Merton skinhead?
No idea.
No idea.
Yeah.
I'm running the country.
Weren't we all communists at uni?
Oh,
I certainly was.
Oh, well, okay, I'll take that.
Yeah.
When I was 17, I was sucked into this far left group called the Spartacists. I loved the Spartacists, and they were so left wing. They were actually in favour of nuclear war because the workers' paradise would arrive after the devastation, and they used to go along and break up CND meetings. They were such fun. Anyway, that only lasted for a couple of years, and then I started writing for the Spectator.
Saw sense. One platform where I'm sure we can probably all agree children should be allowed is the Nativity. But as Cosmo says in this issue, he is inclined to walk out of any boring show, and he does also admit that he did once walk out of his son's nativity play. Rupert, what did you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, look, bless Cosmo. I mean, he will do whatever he wants, and it will not change regardless of what I say. Look, I take a different view to Cosmo on this. I think that if you've agreed to go to something, you should stick it out to the bitter end, not out of any sort of duty to the people performing, but because things can so often come alive in the last quarter, the last pages of a book. I have an annoying habit, Philip, where I insist on finishing every book that I start, even if I'm hating it, because you just never quite know.
What a thing to say!
You never quite know if it's going to turn around, and likewise with theatre. So I have huge admiration for Cosmo and his bravado, but I will be staying firmly stuck to my seat. And finishing books.
Philip, I'm assuming you don't finish all the books from your reaction, but do you walk out of shows? Would you walk out of a show? And would you walk out, because Cosmo says rather than waiting till half time, he will happily just stand up and go.
I've done that a couple of times. But I think it would be. I think I would only walk out in the middle of something if it was causing me real discomfort for one reason or another. If it was just terribly bad and boring, I would wait until the interval. For those reasons, actually, I now inquire in advance before booking whether this is going to be one of those shows that doesn't have an interval on the rise. I mean, I love Janacek's The Macropolis Case, but when I discovered they're playing it all the way through at the Royal Opera House, I thought, I'm going to spare myself that one. But no, I think, yes, definitely walk out.
But Philip,
absolutely walk out.
Cosmo talks about walking out of a friend's book talk.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't care.
Would you not mind if you were? I'm sure no one would. But would you not be upset if someone got up and left halfway through your?
Well, I'm very happy to say that I discourage all my friends from ever coming to a reading of mine or starting a conversation about a book of mine. I think it's terribly rude. I actually like other people walking out of things. A few years ago, we went to see Harrison Birtwhistle's opera Punch and Judy in Geneva. And a lot of people only go to the opera in Geneva so they can show a ticket to their accountant. They've been there and they don't care what they go and see. Punch and Judy is one of the most unpleasant operas ever written. I love it. It's so disagreeable. The first walkout was 19 seconds after it started. And by the interval, the audience was down by about 40%, I would say. It was brilliant.
I mean, Cosmo even says he's walked out of funerals before. Michael, do you think that's a step too far?
I think that does seem a very extreme step. I would not be socially brave enough, certainly to walk out of a funeral, let alone something in the theatre. The only time I ever came close was I was seeing a production of A Midsummer's Night Dream. And it was so bad, I thought, shall I leave in the interval? Or I don't know if you can do this. And then in the very last scene before the interval, one of the stars broke her arm on stage, so they ended the production. So we were saved from having to walk out due to, grievous bodily harm.
That's like when someone cancels on you and you didn't want to go in the first place. You feel like you've got away with it without actually having to flake.
I think what Cosmo does neglect is the truth that if you do stay to the end, you can indulge yourself by booing. I mean, if walking
Not
out
at a funeral, surely.
Oh, I don't know. Francis Bacon booed Princess Margaret singing at the piano. I think that Francis Bacon would have booed at a funeral. Why not?
Somebody at a funeral I was at a few years ago answered their phone and had a conversation during the funeral service, which again did seem extremely rich. But maybe they should have walked out.
I don't think I would walk out of a funeral, but I might walk out of a wedding. Yeah,
Cosmo does. He walks out of...
does he?
He walks out of
Nothing
a...
you wouldn't walk out of.
Oh yes, I think if they started reading Khalil Gibran or oh yes, let's walk out.
Remind me, I once went to a Spectator funeral and Michael Heath's phone went off and he didn't know how to turn it off, so he left and buried it in the graveyard because he wasn't sure how to turn it off. We're going to talk now about something that I know, Michael, you are knowledgeable about, which is the BuzzBall.
Yeah.
Lucy Dunn has written a notes on BuzzBallz. For anyone here and for anyone watching who's not acquainted with the BuzzBall, what is it?
So BuzzBallz got me through my Hogmanay just gone. I'm sure our viewers and listeners have probably not tried them, but you might have seen them in your local corner shop. They look like sort of Christmas tree baubles. They're these little round drinks. And basically, and this is not an advertisement because objectively they're disgusting, they're about 13.5% of some cheap alcohol, but they're also packed with sugar. So they come in these very sweet flavors, which means you don't taste the alcohol. And it's basically this hit where you get quite a strong amount of alcohol and you get a sugar rush. And it seems to be the rage for sort of the end of a pre-drinks. I find it very useful for if you're about to get to a Christmas party or a house party, New Year's do, whatever it is, and you don't quite feel up for socialising just yet. Have one of these, you feel sick for about 5 seconds, but then you get a nice rush for sort of the next hour. So they seem to have become very popular among younger drinkers.
And you brought a giant one to our Christmas party.
Yes, so you can now get almost 2 litre sized ones, and it was our Christmas magazine that had just gone to press. And normally we have champagne in the boardroom, but we were talking about BuzzBallz because Lucy Dunn has written this notes on in this issue. So we thought, let's order some in to try them. So we got a giant one, and I think the kind of general feedback was the first sip, rank, second sip, disgusting, third sip, palatable, and then it sort of becomes quite enjoyable.
Party started.
Yeah.
Rupert, have you tried a BuzzBall?
No, I was there. I mean, I love the fact that these enormous BuzzBalls are called the BuzzBall Biggie, which I think is such great marketing. I'm a complete sucker for anything sweet and alcoholic, so I think they're brilliant. They are slightly different from what I would have thought of as the kind of traditional alcopop, like your WKDs, your Smirnoff Ices, which are kind of 4.5%, and you can have a few of those without getting too squiffy. BuzzBall, as Michael says, 13.5%. So I mean, it's just a different ball game, and the fact that they're being Thank you.
Should be that slogan.
The fact that they're being like marketed all over TikTok kind of does worry me a little bit. But then maybe to sort of circle back to terrible phrase, sorry, to come back to the beginning of the conversation, maybe the BuzzBallz is the answer to the boring 20s.
I was going to say, do you think it's symbolic of the boring 20s or the roaring 20s that you were trying to advocate for?
Lord. I think I should say straight away that I thought I would try any alcoholic drink, but I'm not going to try a BuzzBallz. I don't know. It doesn't seem like a lot of fun to me.
No.
It's definitely got this thing that's like, I think it's useful for those of us who think it's bad if it's true, this trend of young people not wanting to drink. Because like the sort of multicoloured vapes that seem to have got young people into vaping, which is not necessarily a good thing, I think there's a similar marketing strategy here.
Yes.
And I think drinking is a good thing. So if this hooks in the new generation of drinkers, then, you know, all power to BuzzBallz.
Yeah, so they start with BuzzBallz, and they're going to finish in 15 years' time with a single malt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I can see that. I mean,
It's a journey.
Yeah. I mean, it's the baby sham of the.
Well, we all started on, exactly, Baby Sham or Smirnoff Ice or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously, at this time of year, lots of people are thinking of stopping drinking, which I'm assuming no one here is doing. But can I ask anyone if they've got any New Year's resolutions? Michael, have you set anything?
Well, I never do dry January because I just don't have the willpower for it. But I try to do no hang Jan, which is you drink but not enough to get a hangover. So a nice sort of clean month. So I'm trying to do that again. Last year I managed about 2 weeks. So if we get to 3, we'll be pleased. It's always hard because we have Burns night. So that's a nice target.
I've sort of given up having New Year's resolutions for the simple reason that my life is actually completely exemplary. but I do like to have a new cocktail every year, because I like a pre-dinner cocktail. And last year it was, I'm not sure whether I've invented this or not, it was an aquavit sour, like a pisco sour, but with aquavit, and it was delicious. And that got me through. It got me through most of the winter. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do this year. I think I want to find a cocktail with Amaro, you know, that Italian liqueur that comes in. I absolutely love that, but I don't drink it enough. And I think that inventing a cocktail with an Amaro in it. My other long-term strategy, I've thought for about 30 years that you ought to be able to make a cocktail with a dose of Benylin cough syrup. I think that would be a very good addition to the right cocktail.
Rupert?
Well, yeah, I'm very impressed that you're both introducing more booze into your life in the first month of the new year. Mine's less exciting, but my New Year's resolution is I'm going to shave every day. I'm going to go and buy one of those very nice Badger Brush shaving brushes, some proper shaving soap, and at 37, lose the beard, grow up, and I feel like I'm going to sort of go out into the world feeling like fresh-faced every day. It will probably only last for a week because I'll run out of time.
We'll have to monitor on this.
Yeah,
podcast.
exactly. How about you, Lara?
I don't really like New Year's resolutions because my birthday's in January, so a bit like you both, I actually always really enjoy January. And Melanie McDonough's always pushing everyone to enjoy January and then do Lent properly, so I always like that message. I think I should probably drink more water, that's what Gen Z do, isn't it?
Yeah, cheers to that.
I should probably drink more water, but anyway. Anyway, wishing everyone a very happy New Year, and thank you to Michael, Rupert and Philip for joining us on The Edition today.